by the age of 12, I was already deep in the occult. I'd been made a trainer of witches when I was the age of 9. At the age of 7, I was a territorial witch in charge of a territory. I had strange powers. People older than my mother could come and bow to me. Politicians, businessmen for powers. So I kept wondering, where did I get all these powers? Where am I strange? But my mother kept taking me to different witch doctors for help, to be delivered from those powers. But several times we could go to these places, to the witch doctors, and the witch doctors could chase my mother away, claiming that when she takes me to them, I steal their powers. So like even the witches, the sorcerers, the diviners, even they hated me because they were, this baby has strange powers. So my mother decided to take me to a man in Pemba. Pemba is in Tanzania, in the Indian Ocean, who was called a sultan. So in this journey, she said, I'm going to take you to this man, and this man is going to help you. So that's when I asked. I remember we were in Dar es Salaam, we were on the port trying to get a ferry to go to Pemba. And I asked her, but Mom, tell me something. Why am I strange? And I could see when I remember I looked at my mother, and like this time she was desperate to tell me and say, please, can you not interfere with where we're going? Please don't interfere. So like to convince me not to interfere, my powers, the power I had as a boy, for where we're going. So she had to tell me the story of my life, how she ended up in this. So this is what she tells me. She says, when she got married the reason she married my father, because her father had died, and her father was a rich chief, and she was the only daughter, and she had a brother, my uncle then. And when her father died, she says she knew the family in Africa, most times the family would take over every property. So she needed protection. So by the grace of God, she says, at the time when her father died, and she's desperate, she's just a young lady, then my father started dating her. And my father, coming from a prominent family, a very known family and very strong, she thought this man, if he marries her, she'll get protection. So she gets into the family. Now, my father also was marrying her because he had been told he needed to find a young girl, marry early, and get as many children as possible. Because my father, being a son of a chief, son of like a prime minister, he was the only son. The brother had died. He had 7 sisters, the only son. So they were like, now you need to get a woman, get children, and raise a heir for the throne, like the chiefdom. So he marries for the purpose of getting a son. So when she married, my father and my mother, they married, she gave birth. The first child was a girl. The second child, also a girl. The third child, also a girl. Now, by the 4th child, the entire family, the chiefs, the tribe, they're all like, this woman is a waste. Because in my tribe, if you have only girls, they say you don't have children.
Wow.
So they wanted a heir. So in desperation, she went different witch doctors in different parts of the nation. And so she went, they told her, we're going to help you conceive. Then she conceived the 5th child, who was now also a girl. She went on different witch doctors, different altars, and also she conceived again, the 6th child, also a girl.
Wow.
And she tells me that she was so desperate because she knew if she can't get a son, she will lose the marriage. And now her life will be wasted. Though at that time, she told me that someone told her that there is someone who can help her conceive a son. She had gone to all kinds of altars in Uganda and outside Uganda. She had traveled different parts and gave different sacrifices. She had the money. She could sell her properties to travel different places to help her conceive. So on this particular journey where she went, she was told to go to a forest in Tanzania. There's a place in Tanzania, northern Tanzania. There was a place. So she went there and she realized that when she arrived at the place, they told her she had to undress and live in the forest for 7 days, going through cleansing.
Wow.
Before she appears before the person to help her. Now, before there's something I want us to note here, that was the kingdom of darkness. But they understand the principle of consecration and cleansing.
Yeah.
Now I understand after that. So they tell her you have to undress, stay in the forest, cold, don't eat anything cooked for 7 days. So after the 7 days, you are clean enough to appear before this priest who was going to help her. So she says when she appeared after 7 days, that this priest was a woman who always lived in the forest. And she was like the chief witch of the entire continent, because all the witch doctors.
I mean, the entire country
of Africa, not continent.
Wait, she was the chief witch of the entire continent of Africa.
Of Africa.
Wow.
All the witches, or the wizards, or the sorcerers, or the politicians, the leaders could go to her for powers. So she lived in the forest, that woman, that priest, and she had only one breast, like one breast in the middle of the chest.
So all the people that went to her to see her often went through similar rituals.
Similar
They
rituals.
have to stay in the forest for 7 days.
Naked.
Eating leaves and
fruits for 7 days. Wow. And then after 7 days, you appear before her. That was the ritual. And it was like everyone had to go through that. So there were many people there. So she said when she appeared, when she came to her, she looked at that witch, that priest looked at my mother and said, "Go away, I will not help you." So she has been in the forest for 7 days. And now she's walking away. She says this. Now, here's what she told me. She said, as she was going away, she looked in the sky and saw a sign, something that told her that she has a son. She doesn't know what told. So she walks back to the place where they register. And she tells them, please, I want to go and try again. Then they tell her, but also, if you try again, you have to go again through another 7 days. Wow. Now, the 7 days she went through, and then she went another 7 days, that's 14 days. Later, I'll be sharing with you, when I was sick, my deliverance, I had to go through the same cycle of being delivered, the 7 days and another 7 days, but now in the church setting. Because I want to tell people that salvation is free, but deliverance is a price. A price of consecration and being set apart. So she says that, so the second time, the next 7 days, she goes to appear. And when the priestess saw her, said, you are back. You are back. Then my mother tells me, said, okay, I'm back, but you need to help me. Then this woman looks at her and says, well, I can help you, but I can see. Now, I don't know what eye they were using. I can see in the spirit you have a son. But he's very far in the rocks.
He's very far in the rocks.
In the rocks. Now, that's the statement of my mother. He's far in the rocks. And there is a strange star on him. If I bring him out, he will be a problem to our powers. The only thing I can do, if you can offer sacrifices, but also if you can accept the condition we shall give you. So my mother asked, what sacrifice? They told I have to give 7 cows for 9 months. That is 63 cows as a sacrifice. Wow. Then say, okay, I'll do that. Because she was desperate and she had the means. Then they tell her, okay.
7 cows every month for 9 months.
For 9 months. That is 63. So then the other condition was, okay, if you conceive and give birth, and this is a boy, you promise you will offer him to that woman, the princess, as a husband. She didn't know what it means. She didn't know what it meant. First telling me, she didn't know that it was that. And then they told her that, okay, when you give birth, you must bring that child to the forest before the end of the first day. In other words, before the sun goes over him. She tells me she didn't know what was involved in. So she left offered the sacrifice, returned home, she conceived. To her surprise, she gave birth to a boy. Now, the vow was to carry that boy from the city where she gave birth to the forest around 300 and maybe 400 kilometers away from the city. And that is 1975. The transport means was not that good. I don't know how she traveled. So she travels from the city in Kampala to go to fulfill the vow. What shocked her, she tells me, when she arrived at the forest, this time she didn't go through the ritual, but there was like a wedding. Hundreds of people were gathered. They knew she was coming. Gathered for what? And she realized it was now going to be the wedding of her one-day-old son and the 60-year-old woman.
So, for those of you watching, I don't know if you understand what he's just said. On the day he was born, on the day you were born, you were married to a
60-year-old witch.
A 60-year-old witch that was the Grand Master Witch for the continent of Africa. That is mind-blowing.
And you know, what she told me, the wedding was conducted by the witches of the continent first, and then the bishop of the diocese also came and conducted the wedding between this one-day-old boy and a 60-year-old woman in the forest.
Wow.
So, that was also when she told me, say, are you sure? I said, yes. Bishop so-and-so, which I knew. Later I'll share how he got involved in my life. And now he moved me from that same bishop, from the witchcraft to the occult, because they are different. So for her, when she reached there were all these people, the celebrations from different parts of the continent had come to the forest for the wedding. Now, according to her, that was the moment where this woman, the witch, was to transfer her powers to the boy, the one-day-old boy. Now, I was one-day-old. I didn't know what was happening. So after the ritual, after the ceremony, days of celebration and the wedding, the marriage is conducted, the covenant and all the sacrifices. So they tell her, you know what? Now, this child is not just a child. This is now a man. So you're not going to breastfeed him because now he is somebody's husband already.
Wow. And
she told me that in her mind, she said, well, okay, I'll go home. These people will not be there. I have to breastfeed my child. You know, I've suffered a lot. I've paid the price. I have done all this. Like he was treasuring this child. So she returns home. When she went home, my father said, where have you been? He said, okay, I had all this and this.
So did your father not know what she was doing?
He didn't know.
He did not know?
He didn't know. Because when she left hospital, she just went to the... So my father, where's my wife? She's looking around. So when she appeared, so where have you been?
So he had no idea that she was this deep in her passion to find a boy or to get a son.
He didn't. The only thing he knew, my mother could disappear for days, and you know where he has gone. So when she returned home, she says, I was a baby. She put me in the baby cot in the bed, then go dress up, clean up, and then come and breastfeed the child. And when she returned, she found a python coiled around the baby. Yeah, python.
Yeah.
And she says she could not come near because of the python. So she ran out. The people of the village came around. My father came around. They could see the snake, and no one could come in.
Could they not kill the snake?
I don't know why. So she says for 30 days, for 3 months, she could not come near me.
So was the python wrapped around you every day, all day, 24/7?
24/7. So she says she didn't breastfeed me. She didn't come near me. The whole village could come and just peep in. And then there was rumors around that this woman gave birth to a child and a snake. Now, I heard those rumors when I was growing up. It was the talk of the town in their community. You know, that child is a twin. They could say, he's a twin. He was born with a snake. But my mother says, no, she didn't give birth to a snake. The snake just came when she came back to the house. Now, I don't understand how this was done. So after 3 months, my father left. Now he picked the 6 girls and left the home. She remained alone. And because of that, my mother got a mental breakdown. So she was not like a mad woman in the community. So she's left alone with a child, a demon child, with a brother who was living with her. Now the husband, my father, and the children left, so she's deserted. So by the time I'm three years old, the only person I know is my uncle and my mother, who has no attachment with me. Why? She's mentally disturbed. She always spend all her time alone in the bedroom. There's no way. So as a child, I didn't have any attachment with her. I didn't see my sisters. I didn't meet my father. The only person now I know is my uncle, the young brother to my mother, who was also, I don't know what happened. He was also addicted to alcohol. So he could drink and what. Now, so he tells me, I remember as the other 3, when he was drinking his alcohol, he could give me, because that's the only thing he had. My mother did not breastfeed me. The husband had left, deserted her. And she tells me that the day my father left, and with my sisters, is the day the snake left also. So when he left, also it left. So she remained with this child, but now she was so hurt. She was so heartbroken. And then she got into a mental breakdown because of the husband leaving her. She's alone. And so as a child, I'm in that house with only my uncle. Like all the community, the relatives, the people in the community, no one comes to our home, because the talk of the community, the talk of the village is, in that house,
it's a snake.
There's a snake. And there is a boy who was born. So
you had no connection with anyone else apart from your mother, who was mentally unstable, and your uncle who was, a drunkard who was struggling with alcohol addiction. And then you're 3 at this point. Your earliest memories are around 3 and 4.
3 and 4. That's the memory I have.
And then something really tragic happened.
So the only person I know is my uncle. And one day we are staying in a small room with him. I remember I was 2 and 4. I have this memory. And then the door, someone hit the door, opened it, and my uncle came running. And then these 5 guys, they were soldiers. By that time, the nation was in a civil war. So they came into the house. I don't know why. They came chase my uncle. Then they shot him. But what surprised me that they didn't kill him. They shot him 5 times and watched him bleed. Like, I'm sitting there, and they shoot, wait, they shoot, wait, they shoot, wait, they shoot, wait, they shoot, wait. And then they deliberately, I remember they are shooting in parts that will not kill him instantly. So then I see these men are standing there in the room, and they're watching him, and he's bleeding and bleeding slowly.
And they saw you there?
Yes. They made sure that I'm there. So they bring me near him. They shoot him when I'm near him, and they watch his bleeding and bleeding and bleeding, and I saw him die. So he bled for 2 hours. They're there watching. And when he stopped groaning and crying, and then he slowly died, and that way I blacked out. So when I blacked out, when I woke up the next morning, the people in the community had come around to see what happened. I realized I'd become a different person. I realized by that time something had left. The human, I was not human. From that time until I got born again at 24, my greatest joy was to cause misery. I was a sadist. I enjoyed causing trouble, killing. I enjoyed seeing people suffer, and that could bring me joy. But I can trace that happened the day my uncle. Now I've understood after I became a Christian, when I was going through my healing, because I got saved, but the healing took time. It took 10 years to be healed. My healing, especially deliverance and healing, took 10 years, because parts of my life were fragmented.
See, so a part of your soul
Now,
Something happened to your
I
soul.
later understood that at that moment, a part of my soul was trapped. And later I realized that after I got married. Because when I got married, I could not relate with my wife as husband and wife.
Wow.
So I went in prayer, and then the Lord took me to that moment when I was 3 years and showed me when I blacked out what happened. Because God is all-knowing. Jesus is all-knowing. So to deliver me, he had to show me what happened when I blacked out, what happened to my soul, where was I trapped. So when I got married, I married when I was 36, very late. So I was a 36-year-old man, but my soul was 3 years. So I remained trapped at 3 years. But now I was a man with a body, even born again now, got married, but I could not relate with my wife as husband because I had been
because of that trauma.
that trauma. So when that happened, my uncle was dead, and I became a different person. Those people in the occult came to my mind and say, you know what has happened to your brother? It's because we want this boy. You have to give her now officially to us. You have to surrender him to us. So she tells me, but now this one I remember it. She got me, and there is a place where this the headquarters of the occult in our nation. It's like a cave. They said it's like a cult, as if they believe in God but not God. They don't believe in the Bible. It's like a cult where politicians go and even religious leaders. So she takes me to this place. This place, like it's a cult, like a religion. Now, when their leaders die, they don't bury them. They embalm the bodies and pile them in a cave, the dead bodies. So she took me and handed me over to those people. Now, remember my uncle is dead. I have this pain. And now the only person I know now remaining is my mother. So she hands me over to these people who I don't know. They get me. Now, remember I have the trauma, just lost my uncle. Put me in a cave with dead bodies, lock it for 3 days and 3 nights without food, without water.
And how old are you at this point?
Now towards 4. 3.5. It's just a few weeks from the death of my uncle.
Wow.
So now I remember the pain and the betrayal I felt as a child, that now my only mother, the one who I thought could protect me, has handed me over to these people who have now locked me in a cave with dead bodies, pitch dark, day for 3 days, hungry without food. Now, so what happened in that cave? It's the things I saw inside there those 3 days, like the spirits, Lucifer, the demons, could come and talk to me. Serpents could come into my body. All kinds of things were done on my body. So it was being initiated into deep occultism and witchcraft, like every part of my body. Now, that's the first time I am knowing about the snake, which now Mama tell me, which came at birth. I remember it came around me, coiled around me in the cave and entered my body.
Wait. Physically or spiritually?
Physically. And, all my life until I got born again, it lived in my body. I could know when it's moving. I could know, you could tell something is moving in the body. It's like now the spirit in this snake took over and now it could control me. Now, from that time on, say this, until the day I got born again, all my life I was in pain. There's no day I remember I was not in pain until the day I gave my life to Jesus for 24 years. Every day, that pain was there in my body. All because that thing had to keep me in pain in order to use me. Because if Satan controls you through pain, because it has to manipulate you to control you. So it had to keep in my body. I could not eat well. I could not live well. So the only way I could avoid pain is to be drinking. So I began drink alcohol, and I became addicted to alcohol because that's the only way I could now kill
numb
that pain. Numb the pain.
So that's a powerful thing you said. Satan controls you through pain. There's so many people that, have come into the trap of the enemy because of bitterness and all sorts of things that have happened in their past that have not been resolved through the cross and accepting Jesus. In fact, they may have accepted Jesus, but they've not allowed him to bring healing and they've not forgiven. But that's an access point for control of the enemy.
Yeah, because it controls the pain. And also, you can give your life to Jesus Christ, but you need, first of all, deliverance, and you need also healing to restore your soul. Because if you've given yourself to the enemy, the first thing he'll fragment your soul and keep all different parts of your soul in different prisons. The bitterness, anger, unforgiveness, guilt, hatred, traumas, all these. Now, each one of them is like a print on your life and now has given you a false identity and personality, which is not you. So you have the identity and the personality of the demons that are now residing in those pits where the pain is. So I have the pain. I hate my mother and I hate everyone. I don't know my father. So the enemy, every time is to use me, is to remind me that humans are bad. You have to kill them. You have to do this. They are evil. They are bad. They hate you. I don't have, remember, there's no emotional attachment. Because as a child is growing up, the love you get from your parents is what now grows in you. So now, because there was not that, emotionally, I didn't have I was emotionally trapped. I didn't understand what's love, what's fear. I never cried. I never laughed.
Wow.
Because I didn't understand this. You see?
So now you go through this deep ritual. 3 days is completed. You come out. And what happens? People are worshiping you.
When I come out, what surprised me, hundreds of people are waiting for me. So they come out and they're worshiping. Like I'm like a god. They're bowing and worshiping.
And you're 4 years old.
I'm 4 years old. Wow. So I said, what's going on? Now my mother has no access to me, has no authority over me. Because now, that's when I know now I have been initiated and ordained as a witch. So from that time, there's a part of me that's human. I want to be a child. But then the people treat me like a power. You want to play, but no one comes next to you. First of all, no parent will allow their child to come near you. You see? 2, you were busy. People could come every day and night for help, to get powers, to get what. Then some of them are as old. One of the things that I so painful, even I remember right now, and read it. It had a lot of the people as older than my mother could come, and they have to undress to be naked before me, women, and then you have to give them powers. Now, if a 4-year-old you're exposed to such, that affects your life. And even today, it affected my life until Jesus healed me. You're seeing naked women and naked men. You are a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old. That affects you, the way you look at people, the way you think, So what Satan does is to abuse, you see when people abuse children, people think it's just lust. Sometimes it's initiation. They're initiating them when they expose them to pornography, when they expose them to all these things, like men and who abuse children. And in my ministry, I found that many people who are struggling to be healed and delivered, it happened, their exposure was in childhood, between 1 and 6. Those were sexual abuse, those were molested by teachers, parents, siblings, and all. And it is a gate the enemy uses to trap the soul. So mine was trapped. The killing of my uncle, trauma, trapped me.
Yeah.
Then the betrayal of my mom trapped me. But then the years of being exposed to such things, women and men come to you every day, have to undress, sit naked before you.
So at this point, where are you living? Are you just living in the forest somewhere? Are you with your mom still?
And now the home where I'm living, my father left. It's like now a hospital. It's like
so at this point you go back home and lots of people are now visiting your house
because the other woman, her powers have been transferred now. So they know where they call me the baby. They call me the baby witch, where the baby witch eats. So they can come for powers, for what and what. And I would say this sometimes, I fear to say, but I would say, even some people in church circles, could come to pastors and bishops. Some of them could come to me for powers in their so-called ministries. And so when I got born again, the Lord, actually the Lord led me to most of them who were still alive and could say, you remember what you are doing, and you need to confess it, to repent and turn away. And many could say, I have the name, the big congregation. I can't. People will run away from me. And I tell you, I'm going to expose you. But the Lord told me now, expose them will not help.
You said you told them you were going to expose them.
I'm going to expose them. But the Lord told me exposing them will not help. What will help is them to repent. But for years I feared.